So we're back with a longer podcast. And, well, I'll tell you just quickly what it's about. Have you ever had that time or experience when you think, when in fact you know people are talking about you? They stop talking, they're thinking about you, aren't they? They've got all these things going on in their mind and they're all about you. And it's probably not positive. You're not thinking it's positive. Well, we're going to come up with some solutions for that. I'm going to tell you some stories about that, my own personal stories, my own personal ways of dealing with that. And I want to teach you that you have a wonderful skill. This, what you do, is a wonderful skill. And when we use it in a different way, it'll be awesome. Have a listen.
Hello, and I'm here by duty and honour of my country to warn you you're entering into the personal space of Personal Development Unplugged, and it may seriously, yes, seriously, make your life so much better. Thank you.
Hey, my name's Paul Clough, and I'm part of, this little niche I'm creating, I hope. The niche of unplugged personal development. You see, nothing will change in your life if you don't change first. That's the rules. And in this genre of personal development, self-change, self-development, of becoming that better you, things have just been made far too complicated. Anyway, that's what I believe. I don't know why, but I've got an idea that it just makes the people who make it more complicated, make them feel better. It doesn't help us. And that's what I want to do. I want you to get your dreams, to know that whatever happened in the past was the past, and we can change our life, change who we are, back to who we really are. It's a bit like dehypnotizing, taking away all the things that don't work and find better ways. And that's why I've created this podcast, to break down these overcomplicated ways and produce and develop some really powerful but yet simple ways that will allow you to shine your light, to be who you really want to be. That's a bit way out there, but I just want you to be who you really want to be, because that's who you started off to be. And using things like hypnosis, NLP, so many more things, and for one reason only. So you can, if you choose, to come along for this adventure, to become that real you. Sing, as I say, with your real voice. Shine, be there. Turn up being you, the real you, without any trying, and break through those personal barriers. And as I said before, we're not going to fix the stuff that didn't work, because the very reason it didn't work is because it doesn't work. But we're going to find better ways. Not painful ways. There is no pain, no gain. That's tosh. We want to find pleasurable ways, passionate ways. Everything you can do to realize the opportunities to create your dreams and actualize them. Learn the skills that make it happen. All down to not creating that old you, but to find that real you. So that's why we're here. If you're up for that adventure, listen on.
Warning.
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 Warning. You are entering into the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. Too late. Personal Development Unplugged.
Hey, welcome back to, another podcast, another longer podcast of the personal development kind. Here's a scenario for you. Have you ever been around, say, just anywhere, in a place, and you're there, minding your own business, as you should. Maybe you're reading, maybe you're just sitting down, doing some work or whatever. Maybe just standing around. And then, as you move from one room to another, the people in that room, the one you're going into, stop talking. How does that make you feel? I think we've all had that, haven't we? You feel, ooh, what is it? Is it me? Are they talking about me? Is it something about me the way I look? What was it? And don't you feel, even though they're not looking at you anymore, you feel like the spotlight's on you? What does that feel like when that spotlight's on you, when no one's looking? Because you're putting your own spotlight on yourself, aren't you? And you got that little voice inside saying, well, what were they saying? What were they saying? I bet it wasn't any good. I bet they're having a pop at you. And how did that make you feel? Ooh. You see, I can remember, and it's quite weird really, because when I was working with Mike, I've told you about Mike a lot of times, and he had an office in his house. I say that again, a bit more better, Paul. He had an office in his house, in his home. I had one in mine, but I used to go and work in his house for a little while in his office because we had things to do. He wanted to be there. And, that's where a lot of the information was. So initially I spent a lot of time working in that office, right in the centre of his home. And obviously, not obviously, but his wife worked with us too. She would do a lot of accounting work. So a lot of the time it would be, he actually said at one time, I actually saw more of his wife than he did because we used to work together a lot more in the office while he was out. But here's the thing. I'd be working away in the office and then they might be in the office too, but they would get out and they'd go into like the kitchen and close the door. And I'd hear, and sometimes I could hear raised voices. And I used to question myself. Have I done something? What have I done? Have I said something? Have I not done something? Have I come in with something on my shoes? I felt like I was a bit on the bottom of a shoe sometimes. And it's real weird. I'll tell you what it really meant. But it made me feel, it stopped me working. Because then I maybe listen. I'd have one ear trying to listen to the things I couldn't listen to. And maybe I shouldn't be because it was private. It's quite obvious they closed the door. But can't help it, can you? And here's another one. You're there. You walk into a room and someone's on the phone and they just stop talking. You just walked in and you feel, what was that about? I bet it was about me. I bet it was. But the thing is, we start to visualize, don't we? Visualize all the things that people are thinking about all the time. I say all the time, it's a big generalization. But what a wonderful skill we've got. We've got this wonderful skill that when people say, I don't visualize it, when they get into this bit, they can see 20/20 vision. And they've got these pictures going in their mind. They're wonderful movies with wonderful sounds. The voices are so clear. And in fact, they can run that movie and they can do maybe 3 or 4 different endings, all worse than the one before. And you've even got a commentary, your commentary on it. And you also got a commentary on the way you feel about it. Because each one, I guess, just makes you feel worse than the time before. And you've made a decision. I mean, you chose to feel that way. Oh, they made me feel that way. No, they didn't make you feel that way. Mike and his wife didn't make me feel that way when they used to go to that other room. I chose to feel that way for a particular reason, I know. And we're going to get a look at that. But the thing is, what a wonderful skill to have to be able to visualize. I know, there's... I'm going to ask you a question. We know every behavior has a positive intention by now, don't we? I'll say that again. We know that every behavior has a positive intention. Or it did when we first did it. It just carried on after that. Sometimes that intent, always the intention is wonderful and positive. Sometimes the behavior is outmoded, outdated, because it hasn't moved on and we don't make use of all our experiences. But never mind about that. The question is, what is the intention? What is the positive intention for getting you to question yourself, to get you to have this wonderful 20/20 vision visualization going out into the future and making you feel worse? Come back to that in a minute, won't we? Yeah? Have a think. You may have it already because I think you may do. But the thing is, here's another question for you. Here's another question. Yeah, here's another question I just thought of. How much time do you spend thinking and even thinking down of other people? Forget about, start off with the first part of that question. Part 1. How much time do you spend thinking about other people? Not so lot really, is it? Because you're more concerned with yourself, aren't you? I know I am. Yes, I do think of people, and it's not like you're not thinking of people. But generally, we're more concerned with what we're doing, how we're feeling, isn't it? So the percentage of your time thinking about what other people are doing and about other people is quite low. I know social media makes us certainly think about it more often now, but only when we're on there. The other part of this question is, out of that small amount of time that you spend thinking about other people, how much of that time is spent criticizing them, putting them down, being negative about them? Honestly, think about it now. In reality, what is the answer? What's your answer? You see, for me, the answer is I don't spend a lot of time thinking about other people. Not in that way, anyway. And I really, out of that short bit of time, spend very little time thinking about people negatively. And if I do now, I try to catch myself and detach myself from it. And we've talked about that, and we will talk about it even more. But the thing is, you're too busy thinking about what they're thinking about in reality, and they're not thinking about you or any of the stuff that's going in your head, because you're not thinking about them. Yet, guess what? They're probably thinking the same as what you're thinking. What's he thinking? What's she thinking about me? And you're not, are you? Just think about it. Why do we do that? Because it is the case. Is that the case? That is the case, isn't it? We're not thinking about people, but we think people are thinking about us. Why do we do that? What is that positive intention? I'm going to come back now to that question I said. What's the positive intention for have us think that way? Well, I guess, this is my thought anyway, it's a form of protection, isn't it? It's to ensure, I guess, that you do your best. Because if you didn't, people would think badly of you, wouldn't they? And if you keep doing your best, no one can think badly of you. But the thing is, that's a wonderful intention. What a bloody great intention that is. I, your best friend, your unconscious mind, want to ensure that you do your best and make sure that no one ever thinks badly of you. And there's the bloody conflict. Because you don't want people to think badly of you, but that's all you're thinking about, isn't it? That's the worry that you've got. So now you're worrying about what people think about you, and they're not thinking about you, to make sure they don't think about you. Because I want you to do your best. What a load of BS that is. I understand it as an intention. What a wonderful intention. But it just doesn't make sense anymore. Can you see that conflict? Can you feel the conflict now? So there's a bit of a solution to this. A little bit of solution. Well, I've got some solutions. But one of the things I want to tell you is, and my son says this very often to a lot of the people in his mastermind group, others' opinions are not your business. That's it. Simple as that. Others' opinions are not your business. For one thing, you don't know what they are. They're probably not. The only opinion that really counts is yours. About you, anyway. That's it. Simple. So let's get that into our heads for the moment. Because we want to base it on something. We need to base what we're going to do on a belief. So if we really believe that it's not our business, knowing that they're not really thinking about it anyway, that's why it's not our business. And even if it was not our business, but they were thinking about it, it's not our business. If it was their opinion, it's not our business. And then we go, the only opinion about me and my performance of being me is mine. If I don't come up to my opinion of myself, that's who I've got to appease. That's what I've got to work towards. You see, here's some solutions. And here's one of them. And I'll put it at number 3. So I'm going to start off with number 3. And then the rest aren't really in number order. They're just others. But the last one, basically, is you could ask for... Oh, my words are so good today. You could ask for feedback. But the thing about feedback is, well, there's 2 things. Can you be specific? Because if you are worried about something and you think somebody's thinking about you underperforming or something, then you need to maybe get in a position that, do you trust them anyway? And when I say trust them to give you that honest feedback. Because a lot of people will just, because we're the same, aren't we? No, that's fine. That's fine. You're doing great. You're not really, but you're doing great. And that's just, we don't need that. We don't need to have that blown up our, whatever. But if you said to somebody, look, you know what I just did then, or I did that a little while ago, and I'm not sure if I'm getting it right. I'm not sure if I'm getting the result I could get the result I really could get. Can you give me some feedback of what you think you would do? Not what I should do, but what you would do. Maybe there's something specific that I'm not doing that I could do, or there's something I'm doing that if I didn't do would make it that much better. So you're feeding them in some ways the answer, because you're directing them to things that you're doing that you don't need to do, and things that you're not doing that you could do. And you've guided them to a specific behavior and a specific result. Now that to me, although I put it at the end, I'm a bit more impressed about it the way I talked about it. But you could ask for feedback, but sometimes that's really difficult, especially if the things you're feeling about, this sense you're having about what's their opinion of me. Maybe that doesn't go to this particular thing, but it's really good to ask those type of questions, because there's one thing about it. When you ask for that type of specific feedback, that person thinks two things. One is that you value their opinion, and that makes them feel good. And that also makes them think that you're trying to do your best. You're trying to improve. And that's a bloody good thing to do, especially when you do it properly and you do it sincerely, with sincerity, because it's true, not make-believe. So that is a pretty good way of doing it if you have something specific. Now there's another way. So that was like number 3, but could be quite good now if you have a specific thing in mind. There's another way of doing it. You see, I think because we said the only opinion is yours, and your opinion of the level of your performance that you want, then, and we're going to talk about this in another podcast, you have to perform at your best. At everything. And man, that is difficult. Because it's even thinking, we're going to meditate, we're just going to think, or we're going to really focus down on something, and we get distracted, don't we? And what could be easier than just focusing down on one thing? Well, actually, quite a lot. Because we meander in our mind. But here's the thing. If we strive, I love the word strive to be our best at everything. So in those mini sections of what we're doing. So breaking down just for a little while the things that we're doing into little parts of that strategy. And as we go through that strategy of doing something, because everything is a strategy, by the way, everything you do is a strategy. From breathing, so you breathe in, hold, and then you breathe out, and then you breathe in. That's a strategy. In, out, and live. So everything in this world is a strategy, what you do. Has to be. It's not random. So if you broke down what you're doing, the strategy of what you're doing, into those little compartments, or components is a better word, and you can really focus on doing your best at that, the results will be better and better. They just keep getting better, won't they? Because then you'll be setting yourself a personal best, a personal standard, and then you'll beat it. And these standards are aligned with your values. So again, sometimes we have to go backwards a little bit to understand, what is important to us? What is the important thing about doing this thing? And you can get into the habit of doing that. But even if you just said, I'm going to do and strive to do the best I can. Now, how do you do that sometimes? Well, one of the ways of doing that is not fake it till you make it, because I hate that bloody term, fake it until you make it, because it starts off with the word fake. And being a fake means you're not being you. You're pretending, and that's just BS. You're not even pretending for the right thing. You're just faking it, because the word says fake. So don't get me off that. I'm going to come off that little box now and talk. But the thing is, act as if. So act as if you're performing at your best. Act as if you knew somebody who does this particular thing, who does it really well, how do they act? How do they perform? What is their psychology? So what's their mental state, their emotional state, their beliefs? And even if you don't know, because that's what modeling's all about, understanding someone's psychology, their own personal strategy with their internal pictures, their voice, their internal voice, their beliefs, their values, all that stuff. You can imagine it. I wonder what type of mental state you would have to be like that. I'm going to guess it's this. And you can guess. What type of belief would they have to have? Well, I'm going to guess at this. What type of energy will they put into it? What type of focus will they have to put into it? What type of big picture will they hold in their mind while they're doing the smaller steps? Because we can have a bloody good guess, can't we? Even if we go back to other times in our past where we've done something similar, doesn't have to be the same, but similar. How did we act? How were we being when we did that? So we can take on that psychology. But then we can say, what about physiology? How did they breathe? How did they walk? How did they hold their body? How did they move? If they were sitting down, were they slumped? Were they so relaxed they're virtually asleep? Or were they alert? Did they look and feel alert? How do they dress? Because sometimes acting as if you dress in a particular way. So you feel as if you're in that state, which you would do if you're feeling it. But you're doing everything you can. You're adding all the elements in to being your best. And the thing is, once you start doing this, you have to stop and think about this. But if it's important to you, if there's something that you really want to do well, wouldn't it be important to just stop for, say, I don't know, how long would it take? 5 minutes? To quickly visualize, to remember physiology, psychology, and just try it on a little bit? Remember that old Superman cape we did a long time ago? Just standing up tall, moving in a certain way. That changed our emotions, our states, didn't it? So I wonder what type of physiology would change your psychology. Because when you put the two together, mind and body, totally connected. So we're going to look at both. Because each one will affect the other. And you just play with this for a few minutes. Because if the result is important to you, which I know it is, then spend 5 minutes doing it. Because the thing is, once you start doing this, you're beginning to set a habit, a good habit. What does practice make? Perfect. No, it doesn't. It makes permanent. So it's the skill and the quality of your practice will make that habit into a wonderful skill. So then you can build upon that. So you're really making foundations of a better way of being, and it will transfer. It's like skill stacking. It will transfer to different contexts of your life, different areas of your life. I know it will. Without you knowing it, it will do that. So that's something to think about, isn't it? Yes, Paul. Just have a little think. And you might just want to ask your question, if I could, and if I did perform at my personal best in more things in my life, what would the result be? It would be awesome, wouldn't it? And you know that you would just start to bang it out the park, easy, effortlessly. You just do more and more. You get better at it. And that's where this thing about getting lucky. People who practice get awfully lucky, at what they do. Have a think about that. Now, there's another way of doing it. Now, if you're really concerned about, maybe it's people, that person who suddenly, like Mike and Jude, would go into another room. Well, I could, if I wanted to, is maybe do that little exercise that we've done in perceptual positions. I'll remind you what it is for the people who need reminding, and the people who are new, well, I'll remind you newly. Perceptual positions. So perceptual position number 1 is looking through your own eyes. So that's how you do it now. You're looking through your own eyes, seeing everything as it is. Being you, seeing the world through your eyes. Perceptual position number 2 is if you could be in another person's body, looking back at you, looking through their eyes. Simple as that. So it's looking back at you through either something or somebody else. I said something because we'll talk about that sometime. But from another position, somebody else's position, looking through their eyes, getting their perspective, looking back at you. And perceptual position number 3 is like a meta view, where you're looking down at yourself and the other person or the other thing, whatever you want to look at. But you're as if you were floating above and just to the side maybe, looking down at you and something else, so you can get another learning. But that is dissociated, which means you lose connection, as it were. The connection or the emotional connection. You lose that emotional connection because you're dissociated. So you're seeing it as a director would, maybe a director of a movie, impartial, just looking and seeing the facts. So you can get it from another perspective. You can learn from this other position. So you could, if you wanted to, close your eyes. And we've got this actually at the hypnosis website. All those 45 plus hypnosis tracks. One of them is perceptual positions. Now, they're not all hypnosis. Most of them are. Some are NLP processes. That's one of them. Working from different positions on an issue. Now, you could do that with that one person, or maybe the two people. Notice what's going on from their perspective. Feel what they're feeling, because you do get a sense of you're feeling what they're feeling. Always a little caveat to that, a little bit of word of warning. Make sure that they are pretty sane, and I say that in the nicest possible way, because when people have done this with people who aren't stable, you can take some of those traits back in. We don't want that at all. So very rare, but I always like to have that word of warning. But if they're a normal person, maybe it's a friend of mine, I just go into my friend, look back at me and go, "Ooh, Paul, I can see your physiology, hear your tone of voice. You're not giving off good vibes. I've learnt something from that." Float up above, see the two of us. Yeah, I can see what's happening here, and maybe I've got some real good learning so I can take back to myself. Get some understanding. But you see, that's a wonderful thing to do. But you've got all these different things you could do. Visualizing them out. So many processes. Do have a look at that NLP process. The website is paulcloughonline.com/podcast. You'll get a lovely email from me and then a personal link which takes you and gives you access to all of those. Completely complimentary from me. But the thing is, you see, I had to say to Mike one day, I said, I'm really sorry. I don't know what I've done. I don't know what I've done to cause you and your wife to go in the other room, or, a couple of times you've done it. And I'm really sorry. I don't know what I've done, but if you help me or whatever, I don't know. I just don't feel good about it. I don't know what I've done, but I've obviously done something. And Mike looked at me and said, "Oh, Paul, it's nothing like that at all." And this is when I learned. He said, "You see my wife more than I do, and sometimes we just need to talk. Nothing about work. It's like about the kids, about going shopping, doing this, and whatever. And we need to do it privately. That's all. It's because we wanted to give you space to do your work." Oh, wow. If that's all you're doing and you're giving me space, thanks a lot. That's all I needed to know. And I actually said, well, would it help if I started to work more from my office? I still come here, but on set times when we know we're both going to be around, or if there was something that I needed to particularly do, then you'll know I'm coming. Your wife will know I'm coming. But other than that, maybe I'll work from my office. And he said, "Would you mind doing that?" He said, "That'll be really decent if you would, because, that gives us space in our own home." And I said, "Awesome," because I'd love to really get deep into some of the work I'm doing. And sometimes, I have to say, it's distracting with you here. You're distracting me, both of you. He said, "Well, there you go." So, yeah, I went back and asked for feedback of a certain kind. And it worked. In fact, we found an alternative to do the work. I set up my office in my house. I really got down to some really good work. But I also knew I could go to his office and do work. And guess what? Mike used to come to my office and do work with me in that office. And it was such a pleasure because we had different skills. We had different types of information. It was just wonderful. And that's how we got on so well. So you can see my last one, what I said would be like number 3, was actually my first port of call then. And it worked so well. I don't know. It's really weird though, isn't it? Because it does feel horrible when you think people are talking about you. And part of my meta note, I like to tell you about my meta notes. One of them is all that energy put into worrying about what other people think puts you off. First of all, you haven't got the energy to do the work you want to do to be your best. It's bloody tiring, isn't it? Worrying about things like that, because it's like a strategy without an end that just loops and loops and loops. And that's the real basis of a bad strategy, one that keeps looping. We can talk about strategies another day, but if you could imagine, because it keeps looping and looping and looping, you never come out of the bloody strategy. So you spend all that energy, and what's the result? Nothing, because you haven't come out haven't come out the loop. You haven't had an exit from the strategy, which we all need. Great strategies have just a few simple steps, an in and an out. But we'll go over strategies. They're really interesting. So if we can take on that old belief that others' opinions are not our business, the only opinion is ours, then we can put our energy into one of those solutions, which is just performing at your best. Be conscious, focus on being you. You see, being your best is being you, isn't it? Because when you're really being you, showing up, singing from your true voice, everything we talk about here in this Personal Development Unplugged podcast is the authentic you. And authentic gets banded around anyway, but this is the right term. You're being authentic because you're being you, the real you. And that means you're using all the skills you've got, not some of them, and you use them all in the right manner. The other thing is, we've got these wonderful skills. That skill of playing out movies that scare the living bejeebers out of us. In a way, they're sort of scary, but they worry us, don't they? But we have these wonderful skills, but we're using them, I'm going to say badly, we're using them inappropriately now. They were good at one time when those saber-toothed tigers used to come and bite us on the bum. But now we can use that skill by thinking exactly the same skill now. I'm going to be thinking about acting as if my psychology and physiology of excellence, doing this particular behavior, doing this particular thing in my life. What would happen if I just took a minute out and used that same skill with an in and an exit, but just visualized it with that 20/20 vision of how it could be, the result I want. So I can just get that little bit of practice that makes permanent even more rich or richer. So I really know how it'll feel. So I really know how it'll look. And I know the result I want. It's really then giving you and communicating with your unconscious mind exactly the direction you want to go, which is what it's all about, isn't it? And then just at the end of the day, reviewing what you did and going, I can improve on that. Easy. And use the same skill. So we're going to use that skill that we already use. We're never going to throw anything away because it's just skills. But it's how you use that skill. And the thing is, when you get this, and this is what I have a little side notes of various things, and I want to know, why is this going to be important to you? I want you to think about that too. I know that you've probably already thought about that because that's what we do when we do. Why is this going to be important to me? What's Cluffy rambling on about? Oh, I can see that. Oh, I can see this, and I can think about that. But the thing is, when you are performing at your best, or you're thinking of acting as if, and you're visualizing it out, you are now tapping into your wonderful personal power. That's what it is. And when you harness that personal power and that passion and conviction and commitment and motivation and everything else, the only result is boom, success. Success. Now here's the thing. You might have to listen to that last few minutes or 10, 15 minutes again just to get it under your head. Maybe do some bullet points. A mind map perhaps. I love mind maps. But what I'd love you to do, if you could, is email me. Always the same email. My personal email here is feedback@personaldevelopmentunplugged.com. Now I gave you 3 types of solutions and I know there's many more. Or there's an adaptation of the 3 that I suggested. Could you email me what you would do or what you've done to just get a good result so we can add to this, so I can share it with other people, because that will give everyone more confidence just to go ahead and be their best. So I know there's millions of solutions. There's millions of adaptations of this. But if you could, give me some feedback, that would be awesome. And then we can maybe just have another podcast just on your feedback. Wouldn't that be good? Come on, think about it. Be brave. All anonymous, but be brave and just maybe spend a bit of time. Because when you do that, by the way, and you tell me it, you're actually teaching yourself it while you teach me. You're re-remembering it. And then you're really getting those synaptic gaps to really, just keep snapping and connecting. And those neural pathways becoming more permanent. The wonderful new habits that you create with your new personal development. Have a think, please. I'd love you to do that. And also, as I like to finish with this. Your conscious mind could just switch off just for a second while you, the unconscious mind, I'm talking to you, the unconscious mind, while they're thinking of this. Maybe just make them feel really empowered for no reason. And just notice how much better they perform. Okay, you can come back to me now, conscious mind. Have more fun than you can stand, and I'll speak to you next time. It's Paul Clough, your friend, here at Personal Development Unplugged. Hey, before you go, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed the things that you heard, but more than that, I hope you got a golden nugget out of this, a little golden nugget, a little piece of information that may just change your life. I hope you did. I know there's more than one in there somewhere, and I know you'll find it, because when you set your intention to find what you want, I know you'll find it. So find those golden nuggets. I'd love the feedback to know what you did find, what you found interesting, what you did with it, and the results you got. If you just email me at email me at feedback@personaldevelopmentunplugged.com. And I know you, like me, like sharing the things that we learn. So please share this episode, share the podcast. Please tell people about it. It does me some good. It makes me feel good, I know that. A little bit of ego in there. But also, it will share these type of learnings and get people interested in changing their lives too. And that's got to be a good thing. So if you can share this, it's like a pay it forward. And also just make sure you subscribe if you could. If you enjoyed these episodes, please subscribe. There'll be a subscribe button in the platform you listen to. Search for Personal Development Unplugged or my name, Paul Clough. Hit the subscribe button, and then we'll have more fun every time we talk to each other. Anyway, enjoy.
Warning, you are now leaving the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. It's time to fly on your own. Be brave, my friend.
Personal Development Unplugged.